everyone has to be at his best on the Isora and to create time gaps, and it will be an epic battle.
Well, it's a slippery slope once you resort to the word epic. The next thing you know, you're calling things iconic, and we've managed to avoid that for 17 stages. Nonetheless, today is the third, final and highest summit finish of the race, and it's the last chance to rearrange the top of the standings before Saturday's time trial. There is a small third category climb and the much more significant Col de Vars on the route, but the race will finally come down, or rather up, to the 2,360-metre summit of the Col d'Izoard. Hello. Now, we will set the scene fully for stage 18 of the Tour in a few minutes, but as you'll know if you're with us at 9 o'clock this morning for live start-to-finish coverage, the women were first up the Izoard today on stage 1 of a revamped two-part La Course. So there was the glory of winning on one of cycling's great cols to race for, but also placings and timings, because the order and differences at the summit of the Izoard will determine the order and times at which the top finishers set off on a pursuit race around the streets of Marseille on Saturday. Rochelle Gilmore was watching the race.
Under clear blue skies, 119 riders set out from Briançon on the 67-kilometre ride to the summit of the Col d'Izoard on the first part of La Course. The first meaningful break came from Team Velo Concepts' Linda Willemsen. The former world and Commonwealth time trial champion was able to distance the peloton, and with 25 kilometres to go, the gap was out to 40 seconds. But then the Boels-Dolmans team got on the front and began to force the pace. Among those dropped at that point was the legendary Marianne Vos. With under 10 kilometres to the summit, Willemsen was eventually reeled in as Lizzie Deignan drove the group relentlessly. Ashley Moolman-Pasio was one of the many favoured riders unable to stay on Deignan's wheel as the road got steeper. And then Orica Scott's Annemiek van Vleuten made the decisive move. The Dutch woman who suffered that horrendous crash at the Rio Olympics last year underlined her status as one of cycling's supreme talents by accelerating away. With under 2 kilometres to go, Deignan dropped Sharagillo of FDJ and tried to bridge to Van Vleuten, who had suffered a nervous moment when she dropped her chain. In the extraordinary landscape of the Izoard, Van Vleuten and Deignan rode in their solitary worlds. Wiggle high-fives at Lisa Longo Borghini in the Italian national champion's Tricolore jersey, stormed past the Australian but was unable to catch the two women ahead of her. Van Vleuten was first across the line to claim the first race of La Course by Le Tour de France. 43 seconds behind was Deignan, who had absolutely buried herself on that climb in the service of American teammate Megan Guarnier and had nothing left for that final punch. And third went to Borghini ahead of the fast-finishing Guarnier. So confirmation then of victory for the 34-year-old Van Vleuten with that 43-second advantage over Deignan. Longo Borghini in third, 1 minute 23 down, and Guarnier a further 5 seconds back. In all, 18 women finished within 5 minutes of Van Vleuten, so it will be a 19-rider field for that second part of La Course on Saturday in Marseille. It promises to be fascinating.
Well, I suppose the interesting thing might be if the riders closely bunched between 3rd and 7th get together and work as a chase group. We'll see on Saturday. Now, there are the men clocking on for the Izoard afternoon shift, and before we look at the top of the standings, let's remind ourselves how they were shaped by the first day in the Alps.
What a vista, what a setting, and what a race we've got on the Galibier. Romain Bardet's big attack has come, and the yellow jersey now deposits Mikel Landa standing by the side of the road. So Chris Froome is isolated. He's had to respond to Romain Bardet's big attack. Very, very close to the top of the Galibier now. This time, Uran goes past the yellow jersey. Everyone else is put into the red again. Dan Martin just about leads with this acceleration, but it's a big move from Bardet. Fabio Aru finds himself the wrong side of a nasty split. Bardet, is he going to hang on for that 6-second time bonus? Challenged by Uran now on the middle. Uran is going to pick up 6 seconds. Can Bardet hold on for third place? No, he can't. Froome just pipped Bardet to the line.
Chris, I was just thinking about negative splits in time trials, on climbs and in Tours de France. If you were applying that philosophy, you'd come into today's stage absolutely ready to rip it up. Is that what you've done?
I certainly hope so. I mean, the legs did feel good yesterday. This is the last big mountain stage. I haven't really made a move in this year's Tour de France in the mountains yet, but if if there was a day, today would be the day.
When there have been moves, and Bardet made a few yesterday, you've responded to them very quickly, and when you haven't, Landa has.
Yeah. I mean, it's been great having Landa up there with me in the top 5 in GC. It's meant that I've had someone there to cover those moves when the real GC guys are going. And Landa himself poses a threat to some of them. So if myself or Landa had to go for the stage win today, I think certainly it would mean someone would have to react.
And you've already shown in the win that offence can be the best form of defence, and that might be what I'm suspecting you're going to do today. Potentially.
I mean, it's going to be all about the legs out there at the end of the day. But if I feel good and the team's all right, it'd be amazing to try and go for the stage today.
Of course, cold calculation would tell Chris Froome he doesn't need to do anything but defend today. He has 27 seconds over Rigoberto Urán and Romain Bardet. Those two split by their hundredths of a second from the time trial in Dusseldorf. Fabio Aru is off the podium as things stand at 53 seconds. Dan Martin is up to 6th behind Mikel Landa, but further back at 2:37. Simon Yates still has 2:28 over Louis Meintjes in the white jersey race. And as well as having the King of the Mountains pretty much wrapped up, Warren Barguil has ridden himself into the top 10 behind Alberto Contador. There is Barguil next to Chris Froome at the start this morning, with his teammate Michael Matthews on the other side, wearing green for the first time after the abandon of Marcel Kittel. So no reason now for Sunweb to light up the race in search of points for them both, as they have been doing for most of the last week. Now, a large group of 25 riders got away early. 4 of Fabio Aru's 6 remaining Astana teammates were in there, and 3 of Rigoberto Urán's for Cannondale Drapac. Astana's Alexei Lutsenko led over the first category Col de Vars, and as he did so, he wiped out 10 points, meaning that with only 46 left in the race and a lead of 49, Warren Barguil was confirmed as King of the Mountains, just so long as he makes it to Paris. So we join the race with just the final summit finish to climb and the same lone Astana leader on the road.
So Alexei Lutsenko heads the race up the Izoard, and the peloton very soon will be on the climb too. This is the chase group. It contains, well, a rider who has just buried himself for his teammate, Nicolas Day, who's dragged Dani Navarro right back up to close to within Alexei Lutsenko's lead. That's the chase group on the road. There's Navarro, there's Tony Galopin. Team Emirates have got Diego Ulissi, as well as yesterday's very attacking rider Darwin Atapuma in that group. Roman Hardy from Fortuné Oscaro, as Vasil Kirienka just goes off the front from Team Sky. That's interesting because Team Sky on the approach to the Izoard have not been working, and it's perhaps a little surprising to see Kirienka go there. Steve Cummings, who is part of that breakaway group, has also come to a standstill and is going backwards. Cummings had done an awful lot of work right ahead of the race, and it's incredible how quickly he's gone backwards there.
Well, that's what happens. That's what he said. Once you do the peel off and shut it down, and he also knows that he's completely safe regards to time limit, so you may as well do the absolute minimum to make sure you get up to the finish now, which granted is hard when you're climbing up the Izoard, but at the same time he's going to want to save himself. And as Atapuma goes...
Yeah, Darwin Atapuma has attacked and draws Dani Navarro. These two did battle on the Galibier yesterday, and they're rejoining battle this time on the Izoard. They only choose big alpine climbs to go, these two. Yesterday, Atapuma was clearly better than Dani Navarro, but Navarro is a fighter, and he's battled his way across to the wheel of...
comes to a standstill as well.
Beginning to burn out his team now. Oliver Naesen, the Belgian national champion, and now Cyril Gauthier. Ben Gastauer takes over, looks over his shoulder, sees Frank is still there, Villamoz is still there, and the yellow jersey is still there. They're going to have to go some to dislodge Chris Froome today, but equally, Froome knows that over the next 12, 13 kilometres, the battle will surely fire up for the yellow jersey. Atapuma finished 12th after all that drama over the Galibier yesterday, having gone over the top in second place, but Roglic was clearly stronger than him. There's no Primoz Roglic to contend with today. He's got Dani Navarro on his wheel, but it's a much more perilous position as regards the stage win, because AG Toile, Mondial and Romain Bardet have signalled their intention that they do not want the breakaway to get away and stay away today. Bardet wants to do 2 things. He wants to take a lot of time back on Chris Froome ahead of the time trial in 2 days' time in Marseille, and he wants to win the stage of the Izoard. Whether or not he can do either of those things remains to be seen, but his intention is clearly signalled on the Izoard.
Yes, it is, and his teammates have still got a big job to do, because he doesn't want to find himself running out of teammates in Team Sky and Chris Froome still having 3 domestiques left. Tony Galopan looking good. So, and we can see, I thought that maybe Atapuma Navarro would pose more of a threat than that. So they're finding it difficult even to get up to Lutsenko.
These are the more forgiving slopes of the Izoard as well. The first 4 or 5 kilometres are very, very gentle relatively to what they've got to contend with. Only about 5–6% average gradients at this point in the race. Kicking up to well over 10, sustained 10 as well, as we look at Jarlins and Pantano struggling today from Trek Segafredo. Yeah, the closing 7 or 8 kilometres at high altitude, very, very hard on the Izoard. More riders dropping away from the yellow jersey group. That's becoming select very quickly. And don't forget the 10.8 kilometres to the top, that relates to Alexei Lutsenko and not the yellow jersey, who are still the best part of 4 minutes further back down the mountain. Gastauer taking over, the Luxembourg rider, tall, skinny climber from AG2 Mondial. Chris Froome's still got strength in numbers, though. Still got Kwiatkowski, hasn't got Kirienka, but he has got his climbing domestiques, Landa, Sergio Henao and Mikel Nieve. Fabio Aru poised to strike if he can. And a little moment there as Thomas de Gendt acknowledges that he's been beaten by a better man in the King of the Mountains competition. De Gendt did that jersey proud, actually, because he attacked at every possible opportunity and tried to get himself that jersey. But that jersey has gone to Warren Barguil, who gets the yellow jersey. Well, the Izoard might go some way to decide that, as Lutsenko leads them up deeper and deeper into this long-form climb. You can read by his expression that Alexei Lutsenko means business here now. He is riding as best he can away from the Tour de France. He's got Darwin Atapuma closing, though, just 20 seconds away now. And that is the look of the yellow jersey group, now being driven on by Matthias Frank, with just one man, Alexis Villemot, after that, working for Romain Bardet. All the big sky hitters who we're now familiar with as Pierre Rolland and Gianluca Brambilla are caught from that original breakaway group and come back, and Rolland will be a useful man for Rigoberto Urán. But all of the key mountain lieutenants that Chris Froome will need are still there, including Sergio Henao, who's on a better day, Mikel Nieve, Michal Kwiatkowski and Mikel Landa. So in terms of numerical advantage, Chris Froome has everybody else on a back foot at the moment. Once again, Team Sky looking awesomely strong, with 8 kilometres or so to go for them, a little bit less for the front of the race. But they've closed now the yellow jersey group to within 3 minutes of the front of the race, still being headed by Alexei Lutsenko, with Atapuma closing. And here is the man from Kazakhstan. And there is Darwin Atapuma, and Atapuma, the Colombian, has closed this time. Couldn't do much about Primoz Roglic at all yesterday, but John Darwin Atapuma, and that is the correct spelling of his name, is going to get up to Lutsenko very, very shortly, and probably go past him and leave him on the mountain.
We can see how quickly the yellow jersey group is coming back now, 2:48, 7 kilometres to go. The speed with which that's coming back before the big guns have started firing does not bode well for Atapuma.
Well, this is what the Tour de France wanted. They wanted the bike race to come up the Izoard with everything still in the balance. They wanted the race to be close. They wanted it all to be delivered up here, with just the Marseille time trial to come, with one possible last shuffle of the dice still in 2 days' time. But here you sense the big blows will be rained upon the yellow jersey and his opponents, and the big statements will be made on the Izoard over the course of the next 7 kilometres or so of racing. Bardet has to go. Froome knows that. Aru has to go if he can. It's easy to say these things, murderously hard to achieve them. Urán, still not sure what Uran's role in all of this might be. Perhaps he'll just sit on the wheel of Froome, and if it all comes back together and there's a race for the yellow jersey right at the top, maybe Urán will just pick his moment and sprint past Froome and try and gain a bonus second and a little split in the time.
Sergio Henao, so that's not a surprise, to be honest. This is about the size of the group that he keeps getting popped out. And there you go, there's Bakelands' back, so that's perfect. And this is what just, it shows exactly why it's so important to have a rider up the road, because Jan Bakelands would not have been in that group if he'd stayed with the peloton. So they've now got an extra teammate that would have been dropped earlier if he hadn't been up the road. So now he won't be able to do much, but he'll be able to do enough to give them a little break.
Well, that's the southern slope of the Izwaard Pass. It's a rocky area, a big scree slope, and that is what a lot of people have referred to as the famous lunar landscape of the Izwaard mountain up at high altitude. Peaking out this climb, don't forget it, over 2,300 metres. Lutsenko's about to be caught by Atapuma, and Atapuma at that point will have 2.5 minutes to hold on to this AG2 Le Mondial Sky train, and it looks like Bardet is taking his glasses off and he's beginning to look as though he has to start thinking about going. That's Matthias Frank cooked and gone, so it's just Jan Bakelants, and Jan Bakelants is not a pure climber. There was a look of some consternation there to his left as Bardet saw Alexis Villamoz just dropping off, and I think Bardet wanted him as part of that effort, and Aru looks like he's slipping back down that road.
Niewi's struggling, and Kwiatkowski, so they're isolating Chris Froome. This is amazing. So Kwiatkowski, look, he's not got much longer. He's just about to make sure Froome's okay, and he's going to pull off. So AG2R, thanks to Jan Bakelants, are causing damage, and Aru is one of the big. But he's paying a heavy price, and Dan Martin.
Yeah, Dan Martin slipping away, Nairo Quintana less relevantly is slipping away. Aru, though, Aru's really struggling, dropping back with Mikel Nieve. Further up the road, they're looking at each other now. Bardet alongside the yellow jersey. Michal Kwiatkowski is on the front, and Landa just sitting on the wheel. And Landa moves up to the yellow jersey, and Sky assert themselves at the front of that very select group. Uran, once again, poker-faced, conservative, still there. Contador grinding away. Barguil still part of that selection. The white jersey of Simon Yates still there. Further up the road, Atapuma has got to Lutsenko, past Lutsenko, and now he'll just have to time trial his way away from the yellow jersey group if he can, or hold on to that 2-minute advantage, hoping beyond hope that somebody doesn't unleash something extraordinary from that yellow jersey group. Atapuma has a chance, but probably no more than that. Warren Barguil, though, takes advantage of that slight stalling as Sky went to the front and asserted themselves, their presence at the front, and they will probably allow Warren Barguil just to come away with this for the time being. The polka dot jersey secured today, he smells an opportunity,
Contador.
and so does Contador, of taking a prestigious stage win for the first time ever in Tour de France history at the Izwaard. They're not GC players, though, and they are spoiling the party in terms of the stage win, but the real battle for the jersey still locked down behind them on the road.
This is perfect for Romain Bardet. He needs to have strong riders up there who are interested in the stage, and this is why I was saying before it was important for AG2R to make the stage an important part of this race today, because otherwise Barguil and Contador wouldn't have been that interested in racing. Now they're chasing stage, and he can use their motivation to his advantage. Let them attack, they get a little bit of distance. Simon Yates there struggling a bit, Aru really struggling.
Simon Yates is just marking Meintjes. He's in that race. Simon Yates has got eyes for one rider and one rider only. He doesn't want to be losing out to Louis Meintjes like he did yesterday. Mikel Landa has a little look at Kwiatkowski. That face we've become so familiar with Landa, his eyes flicking from left to right, working this out, working what his body is still capable of, what the tactics might be, as Aru lumbers his way back onto the wheel of Dan Martin and rejoins the group of favourites at the front, still being headed by Kwiatkowski.
He's not got much longer, Kwiatkowski. But Mikel Landa is looking completely in control. Ominously so, actually.
Well, we saw that yesterday, but when the big accelerations came, Landa just struggled and he was dropped, and then he had to get back on terms over the top of the Galibier. So again, with Landa, you never quite know, although you can be fairly sure he is looking strong. Barguil, though, and Contador riding towards us, what they hope is a stage victory. 1:54 between Atapuma in the yellow jersey, Barguil and Contador, and now he can use Bauke Mollema. Well, they might well be ending up contesting the stage win amongst them. The yellow jersey battle, though, about to explode, surely, on the Izwaard. .7 kilometres to go. Atapuma has the front of the race. Under 2 minutes now. Kwiatkowski, you sense, just at the very, very limits of what he's able to do. His forearms bathed in sweat. His jersey, his racing journey turning transparent with the effort. Mikel Landa will be the next man, and then the yellow jersey will be all on his own.
Mikel Nieve has just made it back up to them, so the Kwiatkowski pace has slowed it down, allowing Mikel Nieve to get back up there. So if it goes hard again, obviously Nieve will be dropped, but this is important that Kwiatkowski is now back in control.
They've got about 6k, maybe more to go, the GC group. Bardet, maybe he can't attack, maybe he's waiting, maybe the tactics are nullified by the pace that's being set by Team Sky at the moment, but he does need to attack if he possibly can, if those legs will allow. And Uran still riding just on the wheel of the yellow jersey, looking good, Uran, looking muscular, looking strong. Good ride again from Dan Martin. Louis Meintjes and the white jersey of Simon Yates are just locked in their own private battle. Rudy Millard is the rider from FDJ who was in that original group of breakaway riders, and he has been caught and he's just hanging onto the back of the GC favourites as Atapuma is looking okay, but time is being nibbled away at all the while. 1:49 his advantage to the yellow jersey group, and perhaps this move is the bigger threat to Atapuma's chances of a stage victory, because Warren Barguil wants to double up, win another stage and celebrate his polka dot jersey in style. Oh, you're not watching Thomas Voeckler, you're watching Michał Kwiatkowski, surely a few pedal strokes away from cracking and pulling over and coming to a virtual standstill. Team Sky still with the two Michels, Nieve and Landa, to use for Chris Froome. And as you can see, I think that as Fabio Aru rejoined that group, so Aru is just about hanging on. That's an indication, because he's having a bad day again, Fabio Aru, that the pace is not the explosive pace with which they will hit the very, very top slopes of the Izoard. That's yet to come. Meanwhile, Darwin Atapuma holds on to 1 minute and 45 seconds. Stage winner at the Tour de Suisse. He finished top 10 at the Giro d'Italia last year as well, so he is a prodigiously good mountain man and a great climber, the 29-year-old Colombian.
But he's put already almost 30 seconds into the yellow jersey group, so he is flying up towards Atapuma. And he's got all those riders in between that he can use as little carrots to aim for.
Another fan just got the gendarme treatment there, knocked into a ditch. Dan Martin goes, and he attacks once again. This has been the template of his Tour de France, and it hasn't always worked. This time will it stick, as Dan Martin unleashes another trademark, big, strong effort in his best ever Tour de France. Dan Martin, full of misfortune, but full of strength as well. But once again, it's just so difficult to get clear of this group, and actually that almost plays to Kwiatkowski's benefit, as he uses Dan Martin's attack just to increase the pace ever so slightly again and nullify Martin and that attack once more.
Well, the thing is, for Martin, he knows that Aru's in difficulty. You've heard on the radio, and so it's important for him to set the pace up now. May as well try and get rid of Aru and increase his chances of moving up on GC. So he wants to keep the pressure on. He knows, look at that, see, exactly. So it's worked, and he's also increased the pace. And I think I think Team Sky will start pushing on a bit more, Matt. Perhaps. I think I'm interested. Bardet's waiting as long as possible to attack and just do one devastating attack.
Well, if Dan Martin does hang on to that yellow jersey group and Fabio Aru does lose a lot of time, then yeah, Dan Martin, depending on what Mikel Landa does on this climb, could move right up as far as 4th place potentially in the general classification going into the time trial. Remember, this isn't the last GC day. The time trial is still to come in Marseille, where there'll be another shuffling around of positions. But for a rider like Aru, that was an opportunity that is going up in smoke at the moment, unless something dramatic happens to his legs now. But it's going one way, I think, for Fabio Aru. Just about getting onto the back wheel once again of Simon Yates, as perhaps it stalls after that Martin attack, and Kwiatkowski continues his extraordinary ride. He chucks his glasses away. Well, we predicted the end of the Kwiatkowski effort some kilometres ago, so I'm not going to make any more predictions like that. This is immense.
It is an immense ride. It's wow, what he's done in this race on all terrains has been fantastic, and for him to be doing this on the final mountain of Tour de France goes to show the calibre of the rider.
Warren Barguil has got 55 seconds to close to get over to Darwin Atapuma. He can ride across to Lutsenko and then Tony Galopin, who's still in 2nd place on the road, and then he will only have Atapuma ahead of him on the road, and he's still got enough mountain to do that, I think. So Warren Barguil is in the box seat for the stage win.
There you go, the Kwiatkowski comes to a standstill, so he's done his full peel off. Look at that. He actually has to almost stop pedaling for a little bit to try and regroup completely. Wow, he's going to unclip, I think. Yep, he's unclipped.
And he's put his foot on the ground, and he's going to have to somehow get going again if he wants to complete the Tour de France. That's exactly what he did on the Galibier.
Landers now
Nieve doesn't do much on the front, and Landa just moves to the front, opens up a little gap to the yellow jersey.
Chris Froome's going to play games. He's going to make Bardet go for him. Well, Bardet's got to call bluff.
Landa is only at 124 in the general classification, and he is still a top 5 GC player. And Chris Froome is using that to his advantage now. Landa, that's an attack that Chris Froome is entirely happy with, because Chris Froome now looks at everyone else and says, well, I'm not going to chase him. Clearly, he's my teammate.
Now, important point, Mikel Landa made sure his radio was in his ear.
Martin
you know, if certain riders might have taken their radio out, he made sure he had the radio in his ear so he can hear what Chris Froome wants him to do.
So Landa in pure domestique role now. And Dan Martin attacking again, and Chris Froome did follow that attack. But still there's no move from Romain Bardet.
Well, this is great. This goes to how confident Chris Froome is. He wants to try and put Landa on the podium, I think. And in the process, he's so strong, he can use Landa as he's completely safe now. Everyone else has to work because he's threatening other people's podium place. So it's actually a very, very clever tactical move. Chris Froome is strong enough, I think, at any point to go up to him. But he doesn't need to, and he can possibly allow Mikel Landa to get himself a place on the podium next to him.
This is the race leader on the Izoard. He's got 3.5 kilometres to go. Darwin Atapuma very soon, though, will find that Warren Barguil is closing hard and fast on him as Barguil gets past Tony Galopin. He is now the second rider on the road. In the meantime, though, Chris Froome and Team Sky are playing games with the rest of the field, and no one knows quite what to do about it. They have got about 4 kilometres of climbing to go. Up alongside the wheel of Brice Fayou, and for the third time, Dan Martin attacks on this climb, and Chris Froome responds. Mikel Landa is a little bit further around this hairpin, and Dan Martin's doing this because he senses real weakness in Fabio Aru, and he wants to get past Fabio Aru potentially in the general classification. That's exactly the jersey he was looking at. Martin is involved in a personal battle with the Italian national road race champion from Aru, but what Dan Martin is doing here is affecting the rest of the race, because at the moment they're all using his wheel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is what happens. I mean, we're this deep into the race that all these positions are important. And we're not talking about lower positions. We're talking about possible podium positions, which obviously are massively important to the degree where Team Sky and Chris Froome are playing games to allow not only Landa to possibly move up on podium, but to force everyone else to work. Because instead of just using Landa sitting on the front, Chris Froome very astutely and with the lucidity we've talked about often in the race has had a cool enough head to let Landa go up the road and force everyone else's card.
Warren Barguil is 30 seconds behind Darwin Atapuma in second place on the road. Landa is flying up the road. He now is only 20 seconds behind Warren Barguil in the same place. There is the yellow jersey group. Louis Meintjes has attacked the white jersey, so races within races. Simon Yates is put into a spot of difficulty once again by Louis Meintjes. So you've got Martin riding against Aru, Meintjes riding against the white jersey, Landa riding against everyone else in the podium positions, and Chris Froome at the moment is just watching everybody race against each other, and if it continues like that, no one will have done anything to harm Chris Froome on this climb.
No, not at all. And look at the sort of strange time gap going on there with Barguil, so not sure what's going to happen. It's 30 seconds actually for the polka dot jersey to Atapuma, the first rider on the road. 30 seconds, then 20 seconds behind, 42 seconds. So he's actually slowing down Barguil. I'm just seeing the live feed here. And so Landa is sitting just slowly. He's just a little bit off the front of that group. It's only 10, 12 seconds in front of the yellow jersey group, but he's also closing in now on the polka dot jersey.
Has Barguil gone too deep, too hard, too soon? I don't know. He looks okay, Warren Barguil, and this fantastic Tour de France that he's had, where he's rediscovered his mojo and his climbing legs, and signalled that maybe this time next year we'll be watching a real GC ride from Warren Barguil. Who knows? And who knows what we'll be seeing from this man next year when he moves on from Team Sky, as we understand, to Movistar. But for the time being, he's working for... now Bardet goes 3 kilometres from the top of the Izoard. Hold nothing back now, Romain Bardet. This is the moment. The whole Tour de France has been waiting for this moment, and Bardet can do nothing more than just bury himself now to try and hurt the yellow jersey. He's not pulling away too far at the moment. Froome has reacted to this initial attack, and look at Uran once again, so strong, so quick to react to Chris Froome's offensive. And there we go. The top 3 in the general classification have separated themselves away from the rest of that GC favourites group.
I don't think he's not going to let up now, Bardet. He's just got to keep the pressure piling on. Tony Galopin, Frenchman helping a Frenchman there. So we've seen not the first time or the last time we'll see that. And that's a matter of honour and allegiance, if you like. It's so rare that a French rider is trying to win the Tour de France. It would be a cardinal sin not to help him, even though you're on a different team. But
Galopin's not going fast enough, is he? Because, I mean, he's been involved in his own battle. It's a bit of respite, potentially, for Bardet. But look, he's countered by the yellow jersey again, and this could be the moment. This could be the moment where Chris Froome dispels any doubts about his form, about where the final yellow jersey in Paris will go. That's one big move from Chris Froome. Look at the determination in his eyes. One check to see the damage he has done, and boom, he has exploded the race. Uran sits on Bardet's wheel. It looks like Bardet knows that he will not be able to bridge that gap. Look at it go out. Well, this is the slight little bit of descent before it kicks up again.
They have to work together now, because if they want to stand any chance of winning the Tour de France, they're second and third overall. These two riders, Uran and Bardet, they have to work together as a team. And now, let's not forget of the tactical, borderline say genius of this. He's got Landa in front, so he's just got to try and get up there. Chris Froome's got to get to Landa. Landa's there, they can see him just in front, so he's got a teammate. So it'll be 2 versus 2 if he can get to them. But Uran, whoa, look how strong Uran is. And this is the problem for Chris Froome. Uran is so strong on the flat. For the time trial on Saturday, he poses a genuine threat.
Well, clearly Chris Froome had picked that little moment where it crested over, dipped down again, and that slight slowing in the pace when Bardet tried to recover on the wheel of Tony Galopin, and then he went. But Uran is right there.
This is perfect for Bardet to do a counter-attack, because he's had Uran now bringing him back on. Chris Froome has had to go into the red to bridge up to Landa. Now let's see if Bardet does have the legs to go again.
This is all coming back together again. Darwin Atapuma is about to be caught by Barguil, but Barguil, you can tell by his body language, with still 1.5k to go of this climb, is beginning to slow, and that yellow jersey race is not far behind. And they are the best racers in the Tour de France, and they're closing hard on this group. I think it's all going to come back together again, and bonus seconds on the line are going to come into play here. It's that tight.
And look, they've still got all the switchbacks to go up there, so we have a genuine race on our hands here, because they are all very well matched.
Mikel Landa from Team Sky with a yellow jersey on his wheel. One big acceleration from him, and it looked like Bardet and Uran were spent already, but Uran closed the gap on that little bit of descending right onto the wheel he wants to pick off in the final.
Uran, he does look like he's struggling when he's on the wheel, but then when he closed that gap on Chris Froome on that little descent, that was very impressive. And I'll be honest with you, it'd be quite worrying for Chris Froome to know how easily he closed that gap, because he is a good time trialer. It's different to, let's say, Bardet, who really doesn't stand much chance against Chris Froome in a time trial. Uran does have a pedigree. Not recently, but we do know he can ride a great time trial.
Well, Warren Barguil is almost asphyxiating with the effort of holding off this GC chase. He's still got Atapuma to contend with as well, as Atapuma has not been dropped by Warren Barguil. It's a phenomenal effort. Barguil attacking from that GC group in the polka dot jersey, just pushing a fan out of his way as he concentrates his effort. Still got over a kilometre to go, still got Atapuma to deal with, and still got the race that is closing all the time to 25 seconds now for all the big favourites, which surely has 1 or 2 explosions still in it. So Barguil has a chance, but he knows that he has got a mighty battle to contend with here on the Izoard. Through 1 kilometre, Warren Barguil in the polka dot jersey, the king of the mountains on the 2017 Tour de France, climbing up the Izoard, finally cracks Darwin Atapuma, who once again on a big mountain is in second place. It was the Galibier yesterday, it's the Izoard today, and Landa is doing what Landa has done all the while over the last 3 weeks, shepherding Chris Froome into pole position into the final kilometre of a big summit finish.
And this is a hard final kilometre. It's not over yet. I mean, look, Chris Froome keeps checking around. He's not taking anything for granted, because it's still, this is going to take a few minutes to do, and Barguil knows that it's how hard this is going to be for him, but it will be a crowning achievement, and for him this Tour de France to do it in a finale, in a final attacking, because the other stage he won was from breakaway, to do this against GC riders, I mean, that just puts him on the map as one of the greats.
Well, they're all riding according to expectation at the moment. Froome is riding with confidence and power and tactical nous, and a super domestique in Mikel Landa. Uran is riding exactly as we expected him to as well. Very alert, very conservative, not going on the attack, just guarding his position. And Bardet has been spontaneous and attacking and aggressive, but at the moment he's come away with not very much. Contador and Simon Yates are in a battle of their own. Aru is the big GC loser on the day once again, as he sees his position under threat.
Yeah, Dan Martin's just gone around that switch back ahead. So, Warren Barguil's just looking behind. I'm not sure, just maybe cramping up. But yeah, he's having to go deep here. But yeah, you've got the bonus seconds on the line as well, so that's the race that's going to be going. Those bonus seconds are going to be so important. Now, Barguil, if he stays off front, obviously gets the most, but there's still second and third to fight for, just like yesterday.
Don't forget, Darwin Atapuma is still second on the road at the moment, so it might just be 4 seconds up for grabs unless Atapuma is swallowed up by the GC race that you're looking at now. 500 metres to go. Yates has dropped Alberto Contador and is recovering his position on the road. 294 kilometres. No, this is going to be all right for Warren Barguil. He's going to hang on, I think. And what a Tour de France this man has had. Absolutely exceptional.
There you go, Bardet again. Bardet's attacking again. So Landa's now getting distance after all the work he's done.
So a Frenchman riding to victory in the polka dot jersey that is secured today. Warren Barguil, and as he looks over his shoulder, he sees another great French climber attacking the yellow jersey. One last flourish from Romain Bardet to eke out a few seconds advantage over Chris Froome with that time trial in mind. But Barguil is going to take the Izoard all on his own. He's smiling, he's grinning, he can't believe it. He won on stage 13 in the Massif Central into Foix, rediscovering himself at 2,300 metres of altitude. Barguil is sky high. What a great win from the King of the Mountains. Barguil takes the victory on the Izoard. Atapuma looks like he's probably going to hold on for second place. This is the battle for third and a 4-second bonus. Atapuma, this time, can he make it stick? Can Bardet get there and get 6 seconds? Chris Froome now battling Bardet all the way to the line. Atapuma takes 6 seconds for second place. Bardet just about holds off Chris Froome. There's a small gap there. Bardet will nudge himself back into second place ahead of Rigoberto Urán as Mikel Landa crosses the line. Bardet improves his position by 4 seconds, closing to now 23 seconds on Chris Froome. Urán is back in third place. Dan Martin crosses the line. He has taken a chunk of time out of Fabio Aru, and the Simon Yates shores up his position again in the white jersey competition. He will still be in the white jersey going into the final time trial. What drama! What drama on the Izoard it has produced in spades. But you have to say, with the time trial to come, Froome is 22.5 kilometres from a 4th Tour de France victory as we watch Alberto Contador coming over the line, because all his rivals have tried it in the Pyrenees, they've tried it in the Massif Central, they've tried it in the Vosges and the Jura and the Alps, but Chris Froome remains completely unshakable, and there's nothing that the likes of Quintana, Contador, Aru, who's had another bad day in the mountains today, can do about him. Froome looks a racing certainty, but what about this man? And what are we going to be seeing from him next year on the Tour de France?
Well, we could see him racing this man on mountains like today for podium places and possibly the yellow jersey. Romain Bardet earned his sit down with this fighting effort to take the third place bonus from Chris Froome, the pair of them taking 2 seconds on the line from Rigoberto Urán. Poor Darwin Atapuma was the forgotten man between the stage winner and the GC race, now having completed the unfortunate hat-trick of second places at the Tour, Giro and Vuelta. Mikel Landa was 6th on the stage, just ahead of Louis Meintjes and Dan Martin. Simon Yates conceded 22 seconds to Meintjes. Alberto Contador was at 1:09. Nairo Quintana was at 1:18, and for the second day running, Fabio Aru lost significant time to his rivals to slip further away from the podium and into the sights of the men behind him. Well, he didn't need to win today's stage, Warren Barguil. That is, he didn't need it to clinch the King of the Mountains title, but entirely fitting that he should take it.
Warren, we saw you point to the sky when you came over the line. Can you just explain the significance of that gesture?
Yeah, it's for my both grandfather and my grandmother who died, and was really following me on following me when I was racing in my whole life, and I'm just thinking about those people at the moment when I pass the line, and it's just an emotive moment for me.
Simon Yates climbed the podium to get the white jersey, as he has done every day since the end of stage 5 at La Planche des Belles Filles, and looks certain now to be making the same trip tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday.
Simon, no more big mountains on this Tour de France. As far as the white jersey is concerned, is your job almost done?
I will never say it's, always done, or, there's still some difficult stages to come. Of course, I'm more confident now after today's stage is done, but there's still a TT, a long day tomorrow. You can never really say, okay, I have this, until we reach Paris. We need to be careful, but for sure I'm more confident now.
For once, the laughing group was actually laughing as it came across the line. The sprinters came home comfortably inside the time limit. Michael Matthews celebrating for his teammate and himself now that the green jersey is secure, barring acts of God or Andre Greipel.
It's truly incredible for Warren and for the team. Now 4 stage wins in this Tour de France, and I think we just sealed both of our jerseys. So, yeah, in one bedroom in our hotel, we have 4 stage wins and two jerseys in the one room. So, no, it's such a compliment to all the hard work this team has done, and they deserve every bit of it. And we've worked so hard for this, and now for it all to come true, all our dreams to come true in this one Tour de France, it's really special.
It says something about the race that the least secure jersey is the one in Chris Froome's possession, although he's still relatively comfortable in it with a lead and the time trial to come. It's a slightly diminished lead, 23 seconds, and it's Romain Bardet who's up to second now. More significant for Froome might be the 2 seconds he added to his advantage over Rigoberto Urán, who's at 29 seconds. All 3 podium places could still change though. Mikel Landa is up to 4th as Fabio Aru drops to 5th. And the man who launched the attacks that dropped Aru, Dan Martin, is within 1 minute and 1 second of 5th place heading into the time trial. Simon Yates has 2 minutes 6 seconds over Louis Meintjes, and Warren Barguil has overtaken Alberto Contador for 9th place. Let's hear from a satisfied Chris Froome.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it would have been nice to take a little bit of time today, but all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. 2 seconds over Rigoberto Urán, who I think is going to be my main rival in the time trial. Pretty happy with that. The team was fantastic in the final. It's great having the numbers there just to control things and having that card to play with Mikel Landa. I mean, I tried to give it a bit of a dig behind. I thought I had a gap, but it looks like Rigoberto Urán brought it back.
Impressed by Rigoberto, by Romain Bardet, I suppose?
Yeah, very, I think. Excuse me. They've both ridden a very impressive race up until now. Romain Bardet taking the bonus seconds today. He can be pretty happy with that. I think it's all still to race for now in the final time trial to Marseille.
You'll sleep well tonight. Very optimistic of winning a 4th yellow jersey.
Yeah, I mean, it's still close. It's still everything to race for. I mean, if everything goes well, I would fancy my chances in the time trial against the other guys. But anything could happen still. I mean, it's still very close.